Good morning, Phil from Moto-Mate. This morning, just a quick video regarding a Generation 2 version of our navigation mount for the KTM 1290 Super Adventure SNR. If the date's right, 2021 to 2025. We've obviously sold a fair number of these over the last year or so, and we've had a lot of feedback from customers, which has been absolutely fantastic. And so we've come up with a Gen 2 version, which takes into account some of that feedback. Okay, so here is the Gen 2 version of the mount. First thing to notice, it's aluminium. So it's 5mm thick CNC formed aluminium, just to make sure that we have a perfectly rigid platform. Some customers found that with the larger navigation units and smartphone mirroring screens that they were using, they were getting some obstruction of a daylight sensor on the TFT, causing the dash to switch between daytime and nighttime mode. So we've created some more clearance around there. Customers also wanted an aperture to feed a hole to feed the power cable through for the GPS and keep it nice and neat. So we have incorporated that there. Some customers wanted to run portrait, some wanted to run landscape on some models, and also those using older Garmins, for instance. The cradle was mounted in a portrait position. The modern ones are more landscape. So again, we've actually produced a mounting plate that will work in either orientation. We also have a kit of spacers. These holes are for 5mm fixings. So, but if you're using a Garmin, it's 4mm fixings. So we have a little spacer kit to plug in there that will allow a nice snug fit for the 4mm screws on the Garmin. As you can see, we've no longer recreated the mounting frame of the KTM TFT. We keep that now in place, and this bolts up on the top two mounts there. The Gen 1 nav mount, we replaced the mounting frame, the KTM mounting frame for the TFT, which also then made it had a fixed position. We've now got a much shorter platform which just uses the top two screws of the TFT mount. But then we have what I euphemistically call ears, which go through on the side. So we bolt through radially, get that right, into the back of the TFT, and then actually through the side of these brackets onto the top TFT mounting frame. So we're locking the navigation mount in two planes, which obviously makes it for a lot more rigid installation. Okay, so next thing to do is to go out to the KTM and pull the screen off. I'm going to do this in 3 stages. Obviously, step 1, remove the TFT from the bike. I'm then going to bring it back in here because I don't want to risk damaging the TFT, because this mount isn't just a simple replacement of the KTM frame. It's a little bit more involved, but you'll see it's not much. And then we'll take that complete assembly out to the bike and fit it. Let's get on with it. Right, so I'm glad the camera's that side, because if you look at the front of the bike, it's bloody filthy. So, as per with the Gen 1, first thing to do is take the screen off. So 4 screws. Oh, come on. Right. Park that somewhere safe so it won't get scratched. Remove the center trim panel, which just pulls up and out. Just makes it easier to get to the top mounts. And then the TFT is held in by 2 screws. One back here. Just bring that up a bit. So you get into, so a nice long T-bar does that. Right. So one of the things that customers mentioned on the Gen 1 was the fact that the mount meant you didn't have the ability to adjust the angle of a TFT. So as we are no longer replacing the KTM frame mount, that facility is still now available. So you can still adjust the angle of a TFT. So once the lower mounting screw's out, there's a long top hat bush which goes through. So just push that through from the other side and throw it on the floor. That one there. TFT simply lifts away, squeeze the release pin on the connector, and unplug. Right, you'll note I already have my charge lead, or the power lead for my Garmin, routed through into the ACC2 port, which is just down behind these panels. So I'm going to take this inside and assemble up the nav mount. Here we have the TFT, so I'll just put a cloth down just to make sure I don't scratch it. So what we're going to do, in our bag of fittings. You see we have a selection. We've got, so I'm going to pop off top two mounts. Right, you'll see that the holes in the TFT mounting frame are there for a shoulder on the bolt. So just maybe see it just there. It says that step shoulder which sits in the hole. So in the kit we have two small spacers. So those fill those holes so that then the screws aren't rattling around going nowhere. With the spacers in place there, just sit the nav mount up behind and take spacers. The spacers are handed, but they'll only go one way. So for instance, that is the one for that side. Now we're just going to drop these in and not tightening them up. I'm just leaving them loose so they float. Same on this side. Wrong screw. It's there, nice and floaty. So just by angling those away, we now need to take the top hat spacer here. So you can see it's got a shoulder on it. So the top hat spacer here with the shoulder. Now that shoulder needs to sit between this mounting face and in the hole on the side of a TFT frame. So that shoulder will effectively fill in on the oversized hole in there. Okay. So just pop that in like so, spin the bracket round. So that's holding that in place, and then just drop in the two M4 screws loosely, not tightening anything up yet. I'm just keeping it all loose so we can move it around. Right, that's that side. Second spacer on the other side. So that's in there. So those are all nice and flexible. Now what I do is I take the longer screws that will then go through here and mount onto the top mount of the TFT, and then just assemble those, put those in place. So I can then hold that and then just tighten up these screws. So that way I know the screws are in the correct position, the spacer's held firmly in place, and then it can go on the bike and just drop in. Do not over tighten these two M5 screws because they go into rubber anti-vibration mounting bushes. So if you over tighten them, then you risk tearing the bushes if you ever want to take it off. Okay, so the original top KTM screws that we took out with the spacers, keep those somewhere safe because you might need them if you want to take the mount off when you sell the bike or whatever. So those screws are in there, they're nice and loose, so they can come out now. Spacers are held in place. Let's take it out to the bike and put it on. Okay, so here we are back at the filthy KTM. Nav mounts fitted to the TFT. We're going to stick it back on. First thing I'm going to do is just I'm going to route my charge or my power lead up between the nav and the TFT, so it will then screw up into the frame. Right, next thing is just I'm going to plug the TFT back in. That's just a straight. Make sure he clicks on, and then drop that back in place. Do the top mount. So again, the longer screws that are in the kit. Okay, so with the top screws in, I don't use thread lock on these in case anybody's wondering, primarily because what we're screwing into is two brass bushes on the instrument frame holder, on the bike, and you can then get galvanic corrosion between the two dissimilar metals, and then you'll end up tearing the brass bushes out of the plastic structure. So put them in, tighten them up, but obviously just make sure they don't work loose. So just keep an eye on it. If you ever notice your TFT wobbling around, it's probably because one of the mounts might have worked loose. So just be mindful of that. The lower mount is our friend the top hat bush, which will only go in one orientation. It's got two side shoulders on it, so just get it the right way around and then push it all the way through. Okay, right, so now the TFT's all, the nav mount's all bolted up and solid. We're just going to hook up the Garmin cable. And I'm going to try not to drop that miniature screw. I mean, that smallest screw known to man. So that goes in there, and like so, it screws in from behind. This screw is about a 1 millimeter diameter. So, for God's sake, don't lose it. Okay, so that's in. So as you can see, that theoretically you could mount that way or that way using the angled holes on the mount. Put some screws in there. So the little aluminium top hat bush just goes over the bolt and into the groove on the back of the nav mount. See that? So actually over the bolt and just up into the mount. So that takes up the slack between the M4 and the M5 bolts for TomTom, quad lock and things like that. Spin that on and then do the same for the other three. So that's the nav all installed and wired in. So now it's just left to pop the screen back on and the trim panel. So that snaps back in. And once this is all done, I think the next job is to wash the bike. It's minging. Pop the nav back on and show you what it all looks like. Right, so the screen's in place. We've got plenty of clearance around the daylight sensor for the daytime running light stroke dipped headlight. And Garmin's boosting up well clear of the top of the TFT. And there you go. Okay, so hope that was useful. Any questions, any comments, drop them in the box below or send me an email. Many thanks, guys. Cheers.